Good morning. Okay, I think we're live now. I swear, I have been trying to go live for the last few minutes. I don't know if is it me? Do you have problems with the Facebook dashboard sometimes? I don't know. I think I'll get used to it, but it's challenging. Well, anyway, good morning. Thank you for joining me here today. My name is Adrienne Bradley, and this is the Daycare Q&A Show, and I'm your host. And I want to thank you for joining me here today. I am coming on a little bit early today. I had some things I needed to do, so but I wanted to make sure I touch base with you, and we do have some questions we're going to get to in a few minutes. So if you are joining me here for the first time, welcome. And if you are coming back, welcome back. And please send me some hearts and likes just so I can see who's here and say hi. I just want to say hi. I don't want to embarrass you or anything. I just want to say hi. So anyway, as usual, I am going to get some of our housekeeping out of the way. Looking at my notes. First of all, as usual, my dogs are in the background, and they have been barking this morning, so hopefully they've gotten that out of their system, and they'll be quiet for the rest of the show. But if you hear some jingling or something like that, that is one of my dogs. Let's see. I keep forgetting to say this, and I probably don't need to, but I just want to, well, let me just say this. I just want to say that the questions and issues that we talk about here are from fellow childcare providers. And my opinion and advice are based on my own experience and research. Of course, you are free to run your business the best way it works for you. I probably don't need to tell you that, but I just want you to know I'm just here to help and to maybe share some of my experiences, and maybe, give you something to think about, that maybe if you're in a circumstance similar, then, you can apply it if it works for you. So if it doesn't, take what works and leave the rest, okay? All right, so I keep forgetting to say that, but I wanted to make sure I said that this week. All right, let's see. Again, I'm going to take off my glasses so you can see my eyes. I know that the glare coming from my screen doesn't allow you to see my full face, so I'm going to take them off when I remember to. And, okay, so lastly, we are having our giveaway. So look for the promo code in this episode. I will have the promo code, but this week I'm giving away a really good resource for you, and it'll be free for those who attend live or the replay. You just have to get the promo code, and that'll be in this episode somewhere. Okay? All right. So let's see what is going on in the Thriving Childcare universe this week. Let's see. First of all, this show is sponsored by the Provider Planner and Organizer. And that is our luxury planner made just for childcare owners. So we still have some of our striped. We had an overrun of our striped planners. So if you want to get a really good deal and get a jump on planner season, which is coming up, the 1st of August marks Planner Day, and we've got a lot of things planned for that. But if you want to get a jump and get your planner for a really good price, I will leave the link in the show notes, and you can get a stripe planner for $20 off, which is kind of unheard of for the planners, but we did have that overrun, so I'll put that in the show notes. Okay, so let's dive into some of the questions that have been submitted in the last week by daycare owners. But again, before we do that, I just want you to know that's what we do here. We we want to give you a voice and give you a platform that's not just for rants. I love a good rant, but actually provides maybe a resolution to whatever issue you're going through. Okay, so if you want to submit a question early for the show, if you can't, if you think you might not be able to be here live with us, then there is a link in the show notes where you can go and leave your question early, and then I can address it on the next show. Okay? All right. So let's get into our first question. It says, "Hi, it's Lisa." Hi, Lisa. When enrolling new children, how important is it to ask questions to ensure they align with my daycare values and meet my ideal client criteria? That is an amazing question. I almost couldn't get it out because I'm so excited. That is something that I realized a long time ago in my own business. And I think a lot of us don't realize that the parents are going to have tons of questions. We know that. And we've got answers ready for them, hopefully, for most of those questions. And believe me, the more you do tours and the more interactions you have with parents, you will get used to all the questions that they ask, or most of them. But it took me a long time to realize that we should probably be asking questions too. And I think some of us might be intimidated to do that. This is the time where I can take my glasses off. Some of us might be intimidated to do that, but to be honest, it's not just serving you, it's also serving your client or your potential client. Because if you cannot service them, if they have needs that are outside the scope of your business, then you both want to know that, right? If they have a problem signing a contract, if they have a problem maybe carrying out one of the mandated things that you have to do for your license. For instance, maybe a parent does not plan to have their child immunized. Well, I'm in California. By the way, it is so hot here. It is getting, I can't believe I was asking for this last month when it was cold, but it's hot now. Anyway, here in California, we are mandated as licensed providers to make sure that any of the children we enroll in our program has the immunizations required, just like the schools. And if parents decide that they are not going to do that, then we're not allowed to enroll them. So something like that should be discussed up front. That's a really good question to ask your clients. Another question would be, what are your work hours? And I know sometimes the parents might not be expecting this, and you might feel a little intimidated, like I said, to ask them these things. But you need to know, what if their work hours fall outside of your working hours, the hours that you're open and closed? What if they want to come way earlier or pick up way late? That's something you need to know early on, and they need to know. This is how we head off some of those issues down the road with these clients or these parents and families that really weren't a good fit from the beginning, but we didn't know because we didn't ask the right questions, or maybe we didn't ask any questions, we just answered their questions. But there are some definite questions that it would be good to know from the beginning. I'll give you one more and then we'll move on. But another question might be, a question that I ask is, who pays the tuition? Now, that's important because I've had families that were the mother and father were no longer together, but they were co-parenting. I have co-parenting families. That's what I wanted to say. And so it could be that the tuition payment goes back and forth. It could be that it's coming from one parent and not the other. But that's something that you need to know, because you need to address that with whoever is going to be paying the tuition, what that process is like in your business. So as you can see, there are some questions that would be good to know from the start, and there's several ways that you can ask these questions. My dog. There's several ways that you can ask these questions. You can ask them at the tour. Maybe you ask them on the first phone call. Maybe you ask them in a questionnaire. I have parents fill out a full questionnaire before they come to the tour. And the reason why is because I'd rather just focus on what they want to talk about and talk about the program than the background information. And if I can get some of those questions answered initially before we even meet, then I can address them with them either before the tour if it's just definitely not going to work, or at the tour. So I hope I gave you some inspiration for asking questions. And there's, like I said, there's different ways that you can ask the question. You can ask them at the tour, you can ask them before the tour, you can ask them on the phone call. You can get some of this information during your enrollment process. But again, I would suggest that you ask these questions before you even enroll, and don't feel intimidated to do that. Okay? All right. Put my glasses back on so I can get to the second question. Okay. It says, hey there, this is anonymous. I'm struggling with marketing my daycare effectively. What are some creative and budget-friendly marketing ideas that have worked for other childcare providers? I know that I've talked about this in some of our previous episodes, so I will leave a link to the episode where I did talk about this a little bit more in the show notes today. But I would say, I think we get comfortable with just about anything, but we get comfortable doing the same things over and over and over again. So I want to, while I'm answering this question, encourage you to find different ways to market, okay? And so whatever you've been doing, I'm not saying to stop doing that, especially if it's working, but maybe expand every month, maybe do something different, okay? So if you put your ad in an online space, marketplace, or maybe it's a local online directory, or you're listed with your local CCR, or however you're advertising, find another way. Find another online space to advertise. I talk about Craigslist, and I know that that's old school by now, but it still exists. It is free, so that's budget friendly, and it works to help the algorithm, the Google gods, know that you exist. It's another way for you to have an online presence. Last week I spoke, and I know I spoke about it a couple of weeks, putting an ad on Google. That works in two ways. It's on Google, so Google is definitely going to see that. And it's another way for you to have an online presence, especially if you don't have a website, or you're not on social media or something like that. And speaking of social media, if you don't have a page for your business, consider putting up a Facebook page. You don't have to post there every single day, but that's a place where you can go and put your ad and not have to worry about anybody taking it down. You can pin it to the top of your page so it can always be there. You can go back and update it if you have certain openings and then you don't. You can put up that you've got a waiting list, and how people can get on that waiting list. There's a lot of flexibility when you have your own page. Now, Facebook is Facebook, and it is their property, so I still would encourage you to get your own website, because then you have ultimate control over what you put up there. But try to find new ways every month to market your business. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again, whether or not you have spaces open, because I can't tell you how many times over the years I've been blindsided. I was like, oh, we're full, I don't have to worry about it, blah, blah, blah. And then a parent will say, oh, we're moving, and this is going to be our last month. And it catches you off guard. But if you're always marketing, and like I said, you can have a waiting list, or you can, you know, maybe even pre-enroll people for, or families for spots that you know are coming open. So always consider yourself in the marketing mode, okay? And find new ways to market. Now, I gave a couple of examples in that answer, but one of my favorites, and this is what I'll say to Anonymous, is to reach out to some of the local businesses, especially if you have like larger corporations like a hospital or a larger business in your community. Let them know, let their HR department know that you're here. Because I know when I was raising my children many moons ago, I wanted them to be in closest proximity to me when I was at work, okay? And a lot of parents feel that way. A lot of parents feel that that's what they want for their setup. So letting HR know that you exist, and that they can refer to you, and to please refer to you. Maybe they'll allow you to give them some of your business cards or your flyer or something like that. Maybe they'll even allow you to come to their onboarding. I don't know. Maybe they'll allow you to be in some of their onboarding material that they hand out to their new hires. You don't know unless you ask. And if you don't have the time or the confidence to make a phone call, send them an email. Find out what their HR department email address is, and send them an email. Send it to them once a quarter and say, you know what, I'm a local child care provider, and we typically have spots open. We service this age. We typically have spots open. Please feel free to refer your new hires or anyone in your company that might be looking for a local child care option. Okay, so I gave you a couple of different ways, but there's a lot in there, a lot of ways to try new things every month with just those few examples. Okay, all right, let's move on to the next question. I'm watching my time. Oh, we're doing good. Okay. This is another anonymous question. It says, "Hey, I'm considering implementing a parent communication strategy. What are some effective ways to keep parents engaged and informed about their child's progress and daily activities?" Okay, that's another great question. These are all good questions. I'm probably never going to say that's a bad question. So, first of all, it's a really good idea to make a plan, to have that in your plan, to have a communication strategy with your parents. That is something that if you start from the beginning and create those open lines of communication, there's less opportunity for misunderstandings and confusion and hurt feelings or sore feelings, or however you want to phrase that. So it's a really good idea to be thinking that way. How is some way that you can engage your parents, your clients in the child care in your business and make them feel a part of the community? I'll tell you, early on, I would take pictures of our activities that we would do throughout the day. Of course, I had the parents sign a release that it was okay for me to take pictures of their child. If you don't want to do that, or the parents are reluctant to sign, I did have a few over the years that were reluctant to sign that. And I was like, okay, fine, then you understand, you won't be getting pictures of your child. But I would send them pictures of, like I said, some of the activities, do an overhead shot of some of the projects we were doing, and some of the, sorry, he heard a noise, so he's gonna, but one of the favorite ways that I would reach out to parents would be at mealtime, typically the morning, for breakfast, and I would take a picture of what they were eating. And you can't imagine how many parents later in the day at pickup would comment on that on that picture and say, wow, that looked really good. Or maybe they would send me back a text in real time and say, oh, can I have some? And so finding creative ways that fit in your day to reach out to parents, it's going to be unique to your own program. Something that I started from the beginning when I started my business, because I had worked at a center previous to that, and we had to fill out daily notes, and I mean write them out. And I thought that that was a great practice, so I started, when I started my own business, I would write out the notes every day for the children. Now, early on, when I only had a few clients or a few children, that was viable. That I could do that. It wasn't hard. But as I got full, as I got more children, that task got to be overwhelming. It got to be real. I can figure out how many ways could I say the same thing over and over again. So many years later, because when I hired my assistant, I would tell them, you got to fill out these notes and show them what I did. And we would have to sit down when there was a lot of children. We would have to sit down, and this was taking a long time. So years later, when I found out that there were apps out there, and there are several now, I'll actually put a link to one of my favorite ones in the show notes for this show. But when I found out there was an app, oh my gosh, that was such a relief. I got that app within the same week of me finding out that it was available. Not only was it easier for us to write out the notes or produce the daily notes, it actually saved me money. The money that I was spending on printing out the daily note sheets that we were filling out in longhand was more than the cost of the app. So that's another thing. Like I said earlier, sometimes we get used to doing the same things over and over and over again, when there could be better ways to do things, and it might even be more cost effective. And this was definitely one of them. So, long story, long answer, but consider, if you don't already, providing daily notes. The parents love them. It's a way to communicate with them daily, so they typically don't have a lot of questions or feel out of the loop at the end of the day. I also bring that up at the tour. I'll say, well, we have notes that you will download. The parents will have their own version of the app, and they'll get daily notes every day, and that's another way that they can communicate back and forth to me if there's some information they want to give me. I actually got savvy with how I used the notes app over the years. I figured, well, I'm paying for it. Let me see, are there other ways that I can use this? And I'll link to a post that I wrote about all the different ways that I use that daily notes app. And there are several things that I was able to incorporate right through there. And not only that, it helped me because it created a paper trail. So I didn't have those parents saying, oh, I didn't know it was a holiday. Oh, I didn't know it was this. Oh, I didn't know. No, I sent out a notification on this day, and it's right in the app. So it gave me a paper trail as well. So anyway, there's a lot of ways that you can very easily work, ways that you can communicate on a regular basis with your clients into your schedule, into your daily schedule. So I hope I hope you got a couple of different ideas out of that answer. Okay. Next question. Where am I? What did I do with it? Oh, it's right here. All right. Before we get to the next question, it's giveaway time. Okay. All right. So if you're attending live, or if you are catching the replay, then I will leave a link for you to go and get your giveaway gift this week. Now, you have to enter the promo code FREE for me. That's FREE, the number 4, ME. FREE, the number 4, ME, in all caps. That's the promo codes for you to get our daycare policy primer. And, sorry, my phone buzzed. I'm so distracted. The daycare policy primer is something that I wish I had that way earlier in my business, because I don't know about you, but sometimes when I go through something, I'll think, I got to make a policy about that. Or I need a policy for that. And maybe it's as simple as switching out clothes for the summer out of the cubby. You know what I mean? It might not be a policy, it might be a procedure, but I need to write it down. And then I forget because I'm busy and I move on. This form will allow you to have a place to put and write out what policy you need, what procedure you need to develop, and put it somewhere where you can get to it and actually create that policy before the next occurrence comes up. So anyway, that's your free gift this week. Please go to our hit the link and go over to our shop and enter the code FREE for me, FREE, the number 4, ME, and you will get that for free this week. All right, I've got 2 more questions and not a lot more time, so let me get to the next question. It says, hey there, it's Jessica. Hi, Jessica. I think you've left a question before. I'm struggling with setting appropriate boundaries with parents who constantly request exceptions to the daycare policies. Any advice on maintaining consistency while being understanding? This is one of my favorite areas to address, because I've been there. I know a lot of providers, other providers have been there as well. The first thing I would say, Jessica, is one of my favorite sayings is, don't let the rule or the policy be the exception. And what I mean by that is, so many times we are trying to please the parents and be overly understanding, and we are the first ones to abandon our policies and our procedures. And what winds up happening is the policy or the procedure wind up being the exception instead of the other way around. So, first of all, and this is something I had to do, go back and look at your policies. Become aware. Sometimes, especially when we're first starting our business, we're just trying to get it set up, and we're trying to get the best policies and procedures in place, but we're not really totally aware of them ourselves. So I would say, sorry, I don't know why when I get on here my nose always itches. The first thing I would say is go back and look at your policies and procedures and make sure you understand them. Okay? While you're doing that, get clear on the reason for them. Maybe there's some that you want to omit. There's really not a reason for them. But some of them probably are in compliance with what licensing says you have to do. And if that's the case, those are mandated things, and you don't want to be bending on those things. And that could be as simple as somebody picking up a half an hour late. I know I'm licensed for a certain beginning or start time and end time every day. Okay? And if somebody comes outside those hours, I've said before, you're operating outside, or I would be operating outside of my license. And if licensing was to pull up in front of my house, and this has happened to some providers, and watch, either before or after those times or whatever, and they were to notice that, that could cause me a problem with my license. I could incur fines. I could have my license could be dinged, and that kind of stuff. At least here in California, is online. Parents can see that. So I don't want those kind of problems. So Get clear on what your policies and procedures are, why they're in place, and then find different ways to inform your clients from the beginning what these are. Now, just because you put it in your contract or your handbook, talk about it at the tour, mention it, whatever, doesn't mean that everyone's going to comply. So there's probably going to be times, and this is where it's tough for some people, it's probably going to be times where you have to enforce it. And how you do that is simply referring back to what's already in place. So if a parent says, hey, I've got a project that I need to finish tonight, is it okay if I pick up Johnny about 30 minutes late? You say, I wish I could. I understand those situations, but maybe you can call someone who's on the emergency form that can step in and pick him up for you today, because I'm really not going to be able to keep him for an extra half an hour, because based on my license, I am supposed to be closed. I need to close on time. Okay? That's why people are on the emergency form. But again, you will probably at some point have to enforce one of your policies. Maybe you want to practice doing it. Another thing that I did, and I'm going to get on to this next question because I don't want to run too long, but another thing that I did was in my newsletters. I have a section, I have a newsletter that goes out to the parents once a quarter. I tried to do it once a week. That didn't happen. Once a month, I was kind of good with. But once a quarter, I can get it out. But anyway, a section in your newsletter, how often you put out your newsletter, that's based on one of your policies, one of your rules. Maybe it's your sick and illness policy. Maybe you want to highlight something there. Maybe you want to, it's summer now, maybe you want to highlight something that, or a rule or a policy or procedure that's in place at your business during the summer. But finding different ways to remind the parents, I don't think is unreasonable, because if you had to remember everything that someone told you, you probably, let's be real, you would not. And this is your business, not their business, so they're not going to be inclined to remember every single thing. So I don't think reminding them is a bad idea. I know a lot of people are opposed to doing that. They feel like this is doing more or extra, and they're already busy, and I get that. But I would rather do that than get into an argument with a parent, okay? So that is how I would handle that, Jessica. Okay, last question. I'm almost at the end of the time here. It says, hey, this is another anonymous question. Hey, I'm interested in expanding my daycare services to include before and after school care. What are the key considerations and logistics involved in offering this additional service? Okay. Well, this is a good time to be thinking about that, because back to school is right around the corner. I'm even seeing commercials for back to school gear already. So this is a good time to be thinking about that and thinking about how you're going to market those services. A couple of things that I would keep in mind when I'm adding, if I were adding those services right now to what I was already doing, is to consider the area that you're going to be able to service. If it is just you and maybe one assistant, it is going to be impossible for you to hit multiple schools to pick up children if that's what you're going to be doing, if you're going to be picking them up. Okay? I know years ago I had a set of twins that graduated out of my program and went to the local school around the corner, and I would go pick them up. Not every day. There were certain days of the week that I would go pick them up. But that is a whole situation. You have to be there early to even get a park that's close to the school. It takes way more time than you probably would think. So consider where you're going to be able, or how you're going to be able to service the area that you want to service. Okay, that way then you'll know who to market to, what schools to inform that the service is available, because a lot of them. Let me see who popped in. Somebody popped in. Hey, Denitra, nice to see you. a lot of schools will have after school programs, but I don't know, obviously I don't know where you are, but sometimes they do get full. Okay. So parents, there's a probability that there will be parents that didn't get into that program that might be looking for another option. So letting the school know that you are thinking about, that you are expanding your services to offer before and after school care is a good idea. But like I said, know which schools you can get to and service reasonably if you have a lean staff situation. Okay. Let's see, some other things. Obviously you're going to need to consider what rates that you're going to charge for that if this is a new service. Consider the fact that these children are not there all day like your other clients, so that's something that you'll want to consider. Let's see, some of the things that you do for your current clients are going to, of course, apply to these new clients as well, like making sure that you're within your operating hours or your licensed operating hours, either before or after school. So making sure that those parents aren't dropping off too early or picking up too late, that still applies. So those are some basic things that I think that you should consider, and then just get out there and market that. Any place, just like your other services, any places that the parents are likely to show up, you should show up and let them know that you exist. And and good luck with that program, because that's always a needed program. Okay, I'm going to wrap up the show. Let's see, what else? Remember, you can submit a question early, like for next week's show. There'll be a link in the show notes where you can just go over and leave your question or your issue, or if you just want to say hi, you can do that as well. I'll leave that link in the show notes, but it is thrivingchildcare.com/what's your question. thrivingchildcare.com/what's your question. Okay, and you can leave a question for next week's show. Okay, I am Adrienne Bradley, your host for the Daycare Q&A Show, and I can't wait to continue this journey with you next week. Until then, keep thriving. See you next week.